This is an icosahedron. This is the building block of pretty much all of human perception is this icosahedron. This is hollow. You can see straight through it. I mean, you really can. I don't know if you can. I could if I could try. I could see through that. This will cast a shadow with holes in it. This is the one we just built. The one I couldn't show you because I was going too fast. But this is the little beauty that we just finished building. It's typical Redstog planetary design. Kind of muted on one side to sit on the bottom floor, ocean bottom, if it needs to, or if it needs to be seen, it turns into this side up. Beautiful. Look at the seam between the two. That's harmonic coherence. This is why the letters in the alphabet that have slants have to do with harmonic coherence versus binary static coherence. Keep that in mind, boys and girls. And then we took a bunch of different things and made this. This is our carbon atom. This is the thing that we're going to say is the same thing as a carbon atom. Only we look at it a little differently. We need 6 of these to make a carbon ring. Not just 6 of these, 6 of these things. And they will go together like this. Only if we arrange them in a circle, they will make the carbon ring if we have 6. That's our next step is to make 6 of these. We do that by starting with these magnets. They're just bars. These are Bucky bars. They're just a bar. This is the space between. This is what's required. This is what science refuses to recognize as the ether. The boundary space between everything is structural. We turn those things into these. And this is the next step in the chain. But this is rigid. This will not do for fractal mechanics because it's too rigid. It is a chain. It's a structural chain. We like that. We like the structural chain. Third step is when we add the balls. Once we get these guys going, once those are done, we have to include these. These give us the rotational axis that completes one single triangle. This is what we're trying to make. So this has 3 balls and 3 bars. That's 6 pieces, but it also has 6 cubes. That's 12 pieces. That's because atomic structure requires at least 3 of everything. In this case, we have 12 instead of 9 because 12 is the numerical structure for a form, for any kind of form, dynamic or static. If this was a 9, it would be 3 for energy. 3, 6, 9 are all used for energy. Anything larger is used for form, dynamic form. If you get to a point where you're at 12, which is a dodecahedron, now you're talking about conscious awareness. Structural conscious awareness that is kept where? In a surface. Bruce Lipton was a great cell biologist who proved pretty much beyond any shadow of a doubt that the intelligence of a cell does not exist in the nucleus. A cell can live and function just fine without the nucleus for quite a while, days, according to him. The intelligence resides in the membrane, in the cell membrane. And that's where modern science kind of loses it But I think it's getting back there. I think we're getting back there. Point being is that we've been taught that intelligence is something that's centralized because, well, we live in a highly centralized government. And our authoritarian control structure is highly centralized. So anything that we do, medicine, science, physics, anything that has to do with masses is going to be that way. There's no way around it. We are fractal creatures, and that's just the way it goes for us. We engage this existence using polarity. We are only engaging when we come to this thing called existence, which is to be outside of. To exist means to be outside of pure awareness. When we're in pure awareness, a state of pure awareness, we have no sensory data coming in. We don't measure sensory data in the quantum field or the Qualian field. Fractal mechanics, broken down simply, says that in order for any system to have polarity, it has to have phase states. We have obvious phase states, 3 obvious phase states and 1 not so obvious called plasma, but there are 3 beyond that. Beyond plasma, which is also flux density, which is also flux pressure, which is what Tesla pointed out and has been ignored for quite a while. But rightly so, what we think of atmospheric pressure is really magnetic pressure from water molecules trapped inside the air molecules as protons that we experience as pretty much open space. But most of our pressure pushing down on us, that 14.8 psi at sea level, that's half your tire pressure. At sea level, we're walking around inside an inner tube that's 14.8 pounds when it's pumped up. This is a pressure we don't sense. We never sense that pressure because we're in it. And that's why we never take it into account. That's why physics just can't recognize it, because it's the last thing on our minds. It's the water that we can't know. It's the water that the fish can never experience. Is our pressure from gravity, which is really electromagnetic. Everything is electromagnetic. I've already lost half the audience right there, but I use my own modeling to prove that. I don't listen to other people's theories. I've been using my own modeling to convince myself what is the truth. And the only truth that I can find is geometric polarity. No kidding. If there was something else, I would go for it, but there isn't. So the one thing that we know exists that transcends all scales, that transcends all dimensions, is geometry. From the very smallest scales, where we see colloidal fields through X-ray diffraction microscopy, all the way to galactic thread structures that mimic neuron structures that we use to perceive the universe. Isn't it strange that the closer we look at the universe, the more it looks like the neurons that we use to perceive it? And this is where mnemogenics breaks away from every known science right now, and that is that we are convinced that we are breathing memory, we are living memory. Memory is all we are. What you're experiencing is a memory. The earth, the universe, what you consider a universe, isn't a place, it's a memory. You were born into a specific frequency of a memory, in a specific locale inside a memory domain. And this is what separates mnemogenics from everything else, because it says that perception is not only primary to everything else, a priori to everything, but it's also the basis for how we see chemistry, the basis for how we even pull logic out of a field that is not logical. To do that, you need 2 fields. You need the quantum field, which is obvious. That is the field of measurement. All quanta is a measurement. There's no difference between quanta. That's why all of these are identical. These are all identical. These cubes are all identical cubes. It's identicality that signifies isomorphism. These are all identical bars, which means that there are no individuals here. These turn out to be identical carbon molecules. There are no individuals. This color is what makes everything an individual. That's what distinguishes this thing from all other things like it. It distinguishes it from this thing, which is distinguished from this thing. And how many different patterns can you put in here? How many patterns can you include in this one structure we call a icosahedron? Here's a little baby one. This one is even smaller than that. This is like a this is a 3-course. This is a 4-frequency. This is a 5-frequency. This is a 4-frequency. And when you get to 3 frequencies, they get too small. But here's one that you can divide into its original clam. This is the original oyster, the original clam. And the reason we know this is because all organic structure has to be somehow geometrically perceivable to us, or we just wouldn't see it. We wouldn't be able to notice. We wouldn't notice it. And so these are what's called the 5 primitive. This is the 5-part primitive that comes after the 3-part primitive. And all that means is that any kind of primitive is when you're looking at an isomorphic minima. And so this is the 5 isomorphic minima of 5 bubbles surrounding 3. Whenever you see a column in a bubble field, it's 3 bubbles coming together like an orange with 3 slices, with 3 segments. All bubble fields, every tube in every bubble field is the central tube, a space, a void between a 3-section orange. There is no other connection in a bubble field. That is absolute. That is the constant in a bubble field. The next step, once you have those 3 bubbles stuck together into a 3-segment orange, the next step is positive and negative poles, which then maintain that same configuration of 3 bubbles around 1, because the 1 bubble fulfills the other half of the 2 that are already present on each junction. And so when you add another bubble to those intersections, this is how bubble fields emerge. And when bubble fields get popped, when a bubble gets popped in the middle, it has nothing to do with pressure. Pressure is invariant. Pressure has nothing to do with a bubble field. I have made bubble fields with voids inside of them and no bubble in there. The same pressure inside as outside. It doesn't matter. If I make a huge cloud of really dense bubbles, I can blow a really big bubble underneath it and just lift the whole cloud up. There's no difference in pressure density. What is different is the geometry. As soon as one of those bubbles pop, that immutable geometry has been changed. Some bubbles, every facet is a shared facet. So when a bubble collapses inside the field, the shared facets are like, whoa, now what, and they slam together. If they fit, great. They usually don't. But they will break down until the bubble field reaches some equanimity of structure, not pressure. This I have seen 1,000 times from studying bubbles for years, filming bubbles. I have video of bubbles. There's hundreds of hours of video of bubbles. I have thousands and thousands of photographs. This isn't a mystery to me, but it seems to be a mystery to everybody else. That in a nutshell is what mnemogenics is. It says you can take something as random as just a bunch of these things, and a bunch of these things, and a bunch of these things, and that gives you a bunch of these chains, which if you put together properly, give you this kind of chain. And now you have a new kind of chain. Now you have a neutron chain. So let's take that progression to the end. After we untangle the magnets. Here's the first chain. This is the first chain. This is quanta. They're all the same. You can rotate they're all the same. The color makes it a qualia. This is not a quanta. This has shape. This has parts. This is qualian. This is fractal. This is not just qualian anymore. This is fractal. This has the qualian curvature and the binary of quantum. The quantum is the thing here. The quantum is this thing, and the cube then becomes the center piece of the